Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here at Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. This is Carol Parisi. Jack Roeser and myself today have Marc Levine, and we were talking about billions, $200 billion worth of unfunded
pension liability, which and the numbers to compare, that's a huge number. Okay, but what's important about that number is to look at it in relationship with sort of the size of the state and the our economy, et cetera. For example, the entire state budget, okay, for the state government is $30 billion. So we have so the pension debt is 7 times the entire state budget, all state revenue. Okay, all state, again, income tax revenue. It's impossible to ever pay.
We're bankrupt.
We are bankrupt unless we reform the pension system.
Except because the state can't go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. That's not allowed. Municipalities can, but the fund could go bankrupt. And
and on that, Jack, there's some really sort of interesting elements on that. And of course, there are real victims here, which are current teachers and state workers who may lose their pensions.
I want to put in here, the teachers' pensions are in peril, and it has been caused by the union, the IEA, mainly Illinois Education Association, Miseducation Association. The teachers have been paying dues in from $500 to $1,000 a year for each one, and 80% of that money has been spent politically by the IEA. And what have they done? They've run away from they've run these pensions so high for the favorites of the unions, the teachers that have worked at some, but it's mainly the administrators that we've got in the education system that don't deserve the $200,000 a year salaries and the $200,000 to $300,000 a year pensions that are bankrupting the whole thing. And that has all been driven by the union, with the teachers' dues money paying the bill to go into the politics playing of the unions, which have busted the state of Illinois and put Madigan in the position of running this whole thing. Now, the unions and Madigan gotta go.
There's a couple interesting elements here which are sad, actually, which is, number one, the Civic Committee in Chicago. It's a sort of a business group. They've done a lot of work on the pension issue, and they actually hired Sidley and Austin, which is a major nationally recognized law firm down there, to sort of look at this issue of, is the state on the hook or not if the pension system runs out of money? Okay, and where Sidley came back, and this has been actually agreed to by many other nationally recognized law firms in Chicago, is that the state is not on the hook. The state is not on the hook for those pensions. So if the pension system runs out of money...
Stop it here right now. But Madigan and the legislature are pretending that they are on the hook, and they can't reduce anything. Go ahead.
Of course. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And unfortunately for teachers and state workers, who are really at the end of the day going to be the victims here, when you fast forward 10 or 15 years with even dramatically increasing taxes and taxpayer contribution, and therefore state support of the pension system, and any realistic investment returns, 7-8%, wherever you want to go with that, because of this hyper growth in benefits, the pension system is going to run out of money. It's going to run out of money. And what happens then? Again, I've said this.
Let me stop you right here. Remember where you are, because you're on a real good roll. But you also said the pension systems are going to run out of money. Well, right now, if you listen to the radio in drive time, you'll have the wonderful not teacher unions, because they don't represent the teachers. They represent their own stinking interests. But the education unions are telling us all on the radio, right as we listen, that the reason that there is a deficit is that the state has failed to exercise their responsibility and to contribute to the pensions as they're supposed to.
Jack, I've got some interesting numbers on that, and this is sort of one of the reasons why have tried to enter this debate is that I'm...
Can I just interject
Sure,
for 1 second?
sure.
Because I don't know if our listeners know, but there is a bill 512
Senate
right
Bill
now.
512.
Senate Bill
Yeah.
512.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, got to watch what's
That's
going on.
got its good and bad strings, but let him go with
No,
it.
go ahead. I just, because this is very pertinent to what's going on in Springfield.
That's right, that's right. You know, I hear this all the time. It drives me crazy. So I looked at the data. I actually looked at the information that, again, is publicly available, and I'm using the pension system's information. This is not ours. This is theirs. Okay. Over the last 12 years, the state has contributed $31 billion into the state pension system. The employees, the teachers and state workers, have contributed $15 billion, half of that. So 2/3 of the money that's gone into the pension system has come from the state. Now, let's compare that to the private sector, okay? In the private sector, private employers pay 50% of, as Jack well knows, running this terrific business here, auto engineering.
Thank you.
In the private sector, private employers pay 50% of Social Security benefits, and normally pay like 1/4 to 1/3 of 401k benefits, which is the typical retirement benefit. So private sector workers are, in the private sector workers are paying far more than 50% of for their retirement benefits, and here in the public sector, which is, by the way, broke. Okay, and is a fiduciary of is supposed to be a fiduciary of taxpayer funds. It's exactly the opposite. So the state's doing plenty. The state's doing plenty. The problem, and they refuse to admit it, is the explosion in benefits. It's the explosion in benefits. It's this number, this 2.5 times number that I just never. They'll never admit it. Okay, and it's, again, anybody can go to the TRS website and download this information, and I'm happy
Teachers' Retirement System website.
The
one place they show what they actually make. The school districts
That's right.
Fudge it, but the TRS has to tell what they really make.
That's exactly right. And in fact, actually, Bill Zettler, who knows more about this than has forgotten more about this issue than most people know.
All of his articles are to be found on championnews.net
right.
or the Family Taxpayer Foundation.
That's right. So when I was sort of struggling with all of this, I of course called Bill, because that's what you do if you want to figure out sort of what's going on here. And he pointed me to page 35. Now it's buried on their website, okay, but you can get to it, and it's publicly available that the benefits over the next 12 years will be 2.5 times the benefits that have been paid in the last 12 years. That's the whole problem. That's the whole problem, a benefit explosion.
Well, let me
go ahead and add a little bit to it. The reason that the pensions are so bloody high is because of the crazily exaggerated salaries that particularly the administrators are getting, or the teachers that are in on the racket of exploding pensions. And the teachers, they've got on pensions that are 2 or 3 or 4 times as high as Social Security. They're not doing bad, but this thing's ruined by the people at the top. All of that was a local problem until 1998, when this exaggeration of benefits so ran out of control. Because remember, in 1970, this thing was enshrined in the Constitution of the state of Illinois that could never be reduced. So the increases went running till 98. They exceeded the ability of the school districts to possibly pay for it, and they transferred the responsibility for payment to the state. And so the state has been paying vastly increased amounts, a lot more than they ever thought they were going to get into. Wildly, crazily, they went along with the crazy education unions that have created this bloody mess.
And let's talk for a minute about what the effect has been just up till now. I mean, you're talking about a huge explosion, but the money in the general fund in Illinois has been raided. It has been emptied. This is money that's supposed to go for roads. This is the money that's supposed to go to vendors. There's businesses that have been providing jobs for Illinois for years. They're waiting 14, 15, 16, 18 months to get paid. Some have had to go bankrupt.
And you know something, Mike? This 66% income tax increase that they passed in January in a lame duck session, mind you, every nickel of that is dedicated to the pension system. So we're paying those higher taxes, and we're still going backward. And I know we've sort of got a break coming here, but very sort of interesting fact here is over the next 12 years, scheduled contributions from the state into the pension system are $78 billion. And at the end of that, according to their numbers, the liability is going to be double what it is today. The asset coverage is going to be worse. We're going to be in worse shape after $78 billion more money goes into this pension system.
And here's the real crux. Time's going to come.
This is Mike Brown, the cameraman, who has damn good opinions.
The time's going to come when they can no longer get a Washington bailout, and their credit rating is going to be so bad they can't get any more bonds, and that's when it's going to hit the teachers on retirement.